George St. Pierre, and you're listening MMA Weekly Radio.
To the big show. I am Damon Martin, rolling along on this very special edition of MMA Weekly Radio, where we are talking nothing but Sons of Anarchy. And spoiler alert, if you have not seen Season 5 of Sons of Anarchy, stop right now what you're doing, because this show will be so spoilerific. You will be calling and emailing me so mad that you listen to what you're about to listen to. But if you did watch Season 5 of Sons of Anarchy, today is going to be a very, very special treat for you, because we're welcoming in 3 of the stars of the show, as well as a fighter who loves Sons of Anarchy. We're going to be kicking things off in just a few minutes with the man, the big bad, Mr. Villain himself, Damon Pope. Harold Perrineau joins us on the show in just a few minutes to talk about his role on Sons of Anarchy this season, playing the best big bad I've seen on the show since it started 5 seasons ago. We're also going to talk to our old friend Theo Rossi, who stops back by to see us. He came on before the season started to talk to us about Sons of Anarchy and his role of Juice. And then for the first time ever, we're going to welcome onto the show the man who plays Tig Traeger. Kim Coates stops by to talk to us about his role on the show, as well as Season 5 as a whole. We're going to talk to Charlie Brenneman on the show today as well. Charlie is a huge Sons of Anarchy fan. He's going to talk to us about his love of the show, what he thought of Season 5, and just to throw in a little fight talk, we're going to talk to him about his move to the lightweight division coming up in January. So you will get a smattering of MMA on today's special edition of MMA Weekly Radio, where we talk nothing but Sons of Anarchy. And we're going to kick things off with the man who I believe was the best big bad, the best villain, the best bad guy the Sons of Anarchy have ever faced. And he was a fantastic player in this season of the show. Harold Perrineau joined us before the season, or actually one episode into the season, to talk about his role as Damon Pope on Sons of Anarchy. And now this week, he's going to talk to us about everything that happened this entire season as he said goodbye to the cast with the final episode. Spoiler alert. Obviously, Harold didn't quite make it to the end of the show. So we're going to talk to him about his role as Damon Pope. When we come back, don't forget we got so much Sons of Anarchy talk today going on. You're going to love this show. Hopefully everyone enjoys this. It's a little bit away from MMA, but hopefully the MMA fans who love Sons of Anarchy will appreciate this nonetheless. So right now, we're going to talk to Harold Perrineau. When we come back, we're going to have a chat with Charlie Brenneman about his love of the show, what he thought of Season 5. And then coming up in just a little bit, we're also going to talk to the men who play 2 of the most pivotal roles in Sons of Anarchy. The man who plays Juice, Theo Rossi, and the man who plays Tig Traeger, Kim Coates. Stay tuned for that, but right now, here is Harold Perrineau. It is MMA Weekly Radio, and as everybody knows, it is an honor on this show to talk often about Sons of Anarchy, which has been a great crossover into the MMA world. A lot of the guys on the show are big MMA fans, and obviously we're huge fans of Sons of Anarchy. We're joined once again today by the man who plays the notorious Damon Pope, Harold Perrineau. Harold, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
All right on, man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So, Harold, it was a great season. Last time we talked was right after the debut. And I tell you what, this was such a, you said at the time, Damon Pope was a different kind of animal. And I think we really saw that during this season of the show.
Yeah, you did. Right before the show started, everybody kept asking me a bunch of questions like, do you ride bikes? Are you intimidated around the guys? And I was like, yeah, none of that stuff. Like, none of that stuff actually applies to Damon Pope. So yeah, it was definitely a different kind of beast, and it was really, really cool to kind of bring that, to be part of that element on the show.
Yeah, it seemed like in the early part of the season, obviously he was focused a lot on revenge and getting back. We saw the stuff, obviously, with, the first episode with Tig's daughter. We saw the stuff in the jail with Opie. And then it seemed like he kind of, as the season went on, really became a mentor to Jackson. Really, it became business-like until the end when we see the reintroduction of the Tig storyline. But it seemed like it was kind of a switch in his mentality throughout the season.
Yeah, I think somewhere in there, Damon Pope is, from my talks with Kurt and what was going for, and he actually says it to Jax really early on. You find advantage in the pain, and I think that Pope is one of those guys. He's never a person to let a little bit of advantage go, and so he saw a business opportunity and he followed it through. And I think because mostly he knew, there's nothing for him to worry about.
Yeah.
So, it'll either work or, he just destroys the MC. So. I think so. I think that's the mentality of that guy. He's a ferocious character. So he'll eat you, or but if he likes you, he'll hang out for a minute.
Yeah, there's been a lot of iconic moments on Sons of Anarchy throughout the seasons of the show. It's obviously got a lot of great moments, but there may not be a more definable moment in the history of the show than the episode this season when Opie dies. And obviously that came at the order of Damon Pope. What was the reaction you got from the fans, but also the reaction to yourself when you found out that was going to be going down, that such an iconic character of the show was going to be going away in that way? Because I think everybody was very emotional with that episode.
Yeah, when I saw it, when I read it, I was like, that's going to make people mad, I was like, but that's kind of what my job is as Damon Pope. And then when I actually saw it, it was so much more visceral than I expected. When he's on his knees and that pipe hits him in the head, and it's like, wow, that like. And I'm, some of the fans are really way invested in the show. They've been there for all 5 years, and so it's deep. And me being more new to the show, and I knew that if I felt it, that those really, those fans who are really dug in, I knew that it hurt. It really hurt them. You know what I mean? It really, and it's so weird that a television character that feels so close to you that when they're gone, it's like you're missing like a relative or something. You know what I mean? Like it was that visceral, and so I knew that the fans would be pretty upset.
Yeah.
That being said, I didn't fully expect the response I got. So I was like, this, like, people were like, yo, I hope I don't see you in the streets.
Well,
we're talking about having money on my head. I was like, right on.
Well, and that's the crazy thing about the show is in the very beginning, watching the scenes, it's thinking, man, there's this guy, he's just so evil, and this is a whole different kind of evil that the Sons of Anarchy are going up against. But as the season went on, I kind of found myself becoming a bigger fan of Damon Pope, the way he was kind of teaching Jax, and some of the great one-liners that I'm sure Kurt Sutter and some of the other writers had in there, just the very, very philosophy of who he was. It seemed like, I don't know, I turned on a dime with him as well, because the first couple episodes I'm thinking, wow, this guy is just bad news. But as the season wore on, I'm like, this guy's been through a lot. He knows what he's doing.
Right. I'm really glad you said that. That actually makes me feel really good, because one of the things that I talked about and that with Kurt and what he talked about with me is like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but we wonder if we can get you to a place where you like, you know what? I don't think I hate him that much. Like I really want to hate him like to the core, but maybe I don't. Maybe I kind of can understand it, and so that you're saying that actually makes me feel like, oh right, then we did our job. You know what I mean? Like we really did get to that place that you're like, you know what, Damon, I think I might like him even.
Let me ask you this, because I had read a couple stories online this season about Charlie Hunnam, the way he prepared for this season, because obviously he had a very, very strenuous role with Clay, with Ron Perlman this year, and he had said in a couple interviews that he actually distanced himself from Ron Perlman. He wouldn't talk to him. He kind of, he wanted to kind of keep that anger built up. He didn't want to be great friends with him on set and then have to turn on the hatred when the cameras rolled. So he kind of kept a distance, and he said it was a weird dynamic, but it was the way he prepared for that role. And you preparing for Damon Pope, he was such a dark character in the beginning, but as we saw, a very businesslike, very smart guy as the season rolled on. Did you do anything to prepare? Because we talked after the first episode, and I said, how do you go much deeper than burning somebody's daughter alive? And obviously we saw he went much deeper later in the season. How do you prepare for that? And then obviously that the different sides of who Damon Pope really was.
Yeah, I didn't know everything that was going to go down with him. I just sort of found a basic philosophy that I had for Damon Pope, and it really worked for me. It kept me kind of geared in to do anything that Kurt might have asked me to do. And Charlie is right. One of the things that I did really, really early is when I met everybody. It was really, really cool. Like I met them a few days before we started shooting. And then, when I got to set, I was really, like, cordial, and I talked to people, but I stayed in my room. Like, I didn't come out. I didn't really hang out. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to do anything. And then as the season went on, you know, I find myself talking to Charlie a little bit more because that's what was happening with Damon Pope. You know what I mean? But he's the only one I've really talked to. You know, so even things like when we went to the premiere of the show, even those nights when we're all out there and we're really, really happy, there was still a certain kind of like a distance. I just know myself as an actor, and I know that, you know, tiny little, you know, body movements or the way that you look at somebody, you know, they will, those things will show up. And I never wanted it to show up anywhere in the season that, you know, Damon Pope is really going to let you off the hook. He might like some of the things that you know, like some of the things about you. He likes Jax a lot, but she's not going to let him off the hook.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that was the dynamic that I thought was so sinister about that character, was because, you know, he had this smile on his face, and, you know, in like in the episode leading up to the season finale when Jack says, can I ask you some advice? And, you know, he's very, very friendly, very, you know, very forthcoming with information. But then, like I said, he turns on a dime, and when he says, you know, you have basically 24 hours to turn over Traeger, or, you know, this all goes away. Again, he didn't have to get his hands dirty. He didn't have to have a gun in his hand to just see the just absolute sinister nature of that guy in his eyes.
Yeah. Even I looked at it a couple of times. I was like, and that's what I mean. Like, I prepared for stuff, but there's some of the stuff that's kind of subconscious, and I'm not trying to, like, pat myself on the back for being, like, some amazing actor or anything like that. But, you know, when I was watching it, there were a couple of things that happened, especially, like, when he says, you know, all this stuff goes away, and then I'm going to crush your MC. I could see myself, like, when I'm looking at it, I can see, like, oh, yeah, he means that shit. Like, he, like, yep. Like, and I was like, oh, cool. Then, again, I'm always, like, really happy when I feel like, you know, I've done some work, and I think that it's actually come through on the screen. And so, you know, I've been really happy to do Damon Pope all year. So I was glad to see, anyway, that it really does come through. Like, yeah, when he's a nice dude, don't fuck with him. Yeah. and that's the end of it. Like, it's not even a second. Don't fuck with him.
There were a lot of great moments in the year, and one of the things I love about Sons of Anarchy and the way Kurt Sutter puts this show together is that, you know, some shows, you know, they kind of build towards that crescendo, they build towards the finale, and Sons of Anarchy does that as well. But things are so set up that, again, we talk about, like, the first, you know, 3 or 4 episodes with the, you know, the burning in the train yard, you know, Opie's death, and then you go through some other stuff, and then the end, the way it all comes back together again. I mean, it just seems like a perfectly put together show, and it seemed like your puzzle piece was such an important role this season, and especially going into the finale of everything that unravels. Yeah,
it really, really is, and it really sets up next season to be like, holy shit, what the hell is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, next season is like, God damn, what are they going to do now? So I think all the writers over there are really great at that. And they've got a real understanding of where they're going and, you know, who their audience is, and hopefully the finale is, you know, fulfilling for people, and they feel like, you know, like, oh, satisfied, and they also feel like, oh shit, you know, like, oh shit, this is. You think, like, maybe, you know, you feel some satisfaction here, but, like, then it just turns again. You're like, fuck me. Fuck, where is this going?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Every episode ends on a cliffhanger, and you're like, how can they top this? I mean, seriously, they go so far in that first episode, and then, like I said, with Opie and everything else, you're like, how can they top this? But you knew going into the finale he was going to top it. There was no way he was going to not. And that to me is the best dynamic of the show, is that you just never really see what's coming, but when it happens, you literally just sit there in awe, and that's a phenomenal thing to have.
Was coming. Exactly. I knew something was coming, and yikes, that was, wow. That hurt, but I'm really glad it came.
It's just phenomenal everything he does. And again, Harold, you did a phenomenal job this season of the show.
Man.
It was a great addition to the show. Real quick, I want to ask you, before I know we're talking Sons of Anarchy, I'm going to ask you, because you have a great new show on TBS as well right now called Wedding Band. Little bit of a change from the Damon Pope role, but a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, completely. Like, you know, I had read on Twitter, somebody had written something like, you know, like, completely confused about Harold Perrineau being, like, on the show, The Wedding Band. And it always kind of makes me laugh, because, like, like throughout my career, like, I've always taken these wacky, crazy chances. So like when we did Oz on HBO, nobody had ever done a dramatic television show on cable. Like Oz was the first one, and it was wild. And you know what I mean? Like people were dying and necks snapped and blowjobs, and it was wild. And so, but like I like to take those chances. And so when I read Wedding Band, and like it was on TBS, and I was like, well, what's up? And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like this could be so much fun, and the music is good, and like let's just take a chance. Let's just be wild. Let's see what happens. And so I shot it, and I really liked it. I really, really loved it. And so it's completely different from, most of the other things I did. It had this music, and it's a lot of fun, and there are so many sexy girls. But then, like, I was hoping, I'm totally still hoping that we go on tour with, with the band, Mother of the Bride. And, like, that's just a fun thing to do. You go out, you tour, you drink, you meet girls. You like it's just totally fun. And then I got this job for Sons of Anarchy, and I was like, this is going to confuse some folks. so yeah. But most people are still like really they're really like enjoying it, and it's so much different than Damon. Like it just hits you on a different personal level. Like if you watch Wedding Band, like you really are just trying to have fun. Like that's it. You know what I mean? It's like a perfect Saturday night. It's a perfect night. You watch it, you go get drunk, you hook up with some chick or dude or whatever your preference is, and then you go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Sons of Anarchy kind of hangs out with you for a few months, actually.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, that's one of those shows you watch and it gets in your guts, and it's just a different thing. So yeah, very, very different things, but all, part of me, I'm just trying stuff and taking chances and seeing, what happens? What's up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, Harold, thank you so much for taking the time for us again. I know that Sons of Anarchy, unfortunately, has been a little under the radar when it comes to awards and things like that, although the ratings and the fan response has been phenomenal, and the ratings, again, this season were unbelievable. But I hope when the Emmys and some other awards come out, I think you deserve a lot of recognition for your work this season, on all seriousness, because I thought Damon Pope was a great character, and I thought you really brought him to life in a way, because I think we all, again, with the end of last season, we all knew it was coming, and it was all about who played that role, and I thought you brought it off just brilliantly.
Thank you very much, brother. That makes me feel really good. I really appreciate it, man. And yeah, let's see what happens, man. It's not about the awards, but it is. I think it's about time that people start recognizing the Sons of Anarchy and the great work, they're doing over there. So let's see if this season, we get a little love. Let's see what happens. And I feel myself like I'm fortunate to even be able to associate with the show, with this season. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Definitely. Well, Harold, again, thank you so much for taking the time. Stay in touch. We'll definitely have you back on again. And best of luck with the Wedding Band. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Right on, brother, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.
Want to say a big thank you once again to Harold Perrineau, the man who played Damon Pope himself. I tell you what, I've watched Sons of Anarchy since season 1, and we've seen a lot of bad guys on the show. And outside of maybe Clay, who is obviously the biggest big bad of the entire show. Well, maybe not so much now that he's in prison, but that's neither here nor there. But I thought Harold played Damon Pope to perfection. I mean, this is a guy who was on Lost, which is another one of my favorite shows. He did a fantastic job on that show. He's been in a lot of great movies. He was on Oz, which is another fantastic show from HBO. But for him to kind of turn that corner and kind of play that evil guy, and he's never really had that before. I mean, he did some bad things on Lost, but obviously there was never to the level that he did these kind of things. So amazing role for Harold. He did a fantastic job. We're gonna miss him, honestly. I honestly thought when the show ended he was gonna stick around. I thought there's no way they're gonna kill this guy off. He's too powerful. He's too smart, and they got one over on him. So, I was a little surprised by that. I honestly thought Harold Perrineau would be sticking around for at least another season of Sons of Anarchy to continue to play a role in the lives of the guys at Sam Crow. But it is what it is, man. Fantastic ending to the show, and obviously we're going to miss Harold. Make sure you support him on his new show, The Wedding Band. It's on TBS. Fantastic show, him, Brian Austin Green, and some other people. So make sure you check out that show if you get a chance. Harold Perrineau, fantastic guest, and we definitely appreciate him taking the time. Right now, we're going to move on to our next pair of interviews, and that is with the men who played Juice and Tig on Sons of Anarchy. Theo Rossi and Kim Coates. We've had Theo on the show before. We had him on last summer, right after we had him on the show last summer before the show started, and obviously he helped us preview Sons of Anarchy season 5. Now he's coming back to review the season. His season is Juice. We're also, for the first time ever, going to talk to Kim Coates, who plays Tig Traeger. Tig had an unbelievable roller coaster of a season, starting out with episode 1, where they literally burned his daughter alive, all the way to the end of the season where he gets to kill Damon Pope. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. So definitely want to say a big thank you to these guys, man. They're fantastic guests. We definitely appreciate them taking the time for us to come on the show. They're both huge MMA fans, man. If you haven't seen them on Twitter, Theo is at a lot of the MMA events out there. Big UFC fan. I know he'll probably be in Anaheim for Ronda Rousey's fight. Obviously, he comes to a lot of the fights. They've also made trips to the Ultimate Fighter gym to visit those guys. And I know Kim Coates is also a big MMA fan, following the sport and going to a lot of the UFC events. I know he was at the inaugural UFC on Fox, and I know he's made it out to some other shows as well. So huge fans, huge supporters of the show, and we want to be huge supporters of theirs because, well, Sons of Anarchy is just the best show on TV. I'm not going to lie about that. So we're going to talk now to Theo Rossi and Kim Coates. Make sure you stay tuned for all this. We got them for almost 25 minutes talking about Sons of Anarchy Season 5. There's some really cool stories in there, so make sure you stay tuned for that. When we come back, we're going to talk more Sons of Anarchy with our other special guest. He is a fighter who loves the show, Charlie Brenneman, so stay tuned for that. But right now, here is Theo Rossi and Kim Coates. It is MMA Weekly Radio. I am Damon Martin, and today we are joined by actors from my favorite television show. If you heard us before, it's very clear my favorite show on television is Sons of Anarchy, and we are honored today to be joined by Theo Rossi and Kim Coates, also known as Kimbo Coates from what I hear. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having us, brother.
Absolutely. Phenomenal season of Sons of Anarchy. Theo, I'll start with you. Now that it's all said and done, man, how crazy was this season of Sons? I mean, Kurt Sutter and all you guys really put together a phenomenal season.
Well, I mean, hold on. Let me, Kim and I are too close to each other. Hold on. You know what it was? It was just such a, it was this crazy, internal conflict season for every character. Every character had all these things going on. Obviously, Tig and, Juice had their own little things going on throughout the entire. I thought the way it started off, obviously, we really set the precedence with Tig's daughter, and Pope. Just talk about the way to kick off a season. And I thought, my big brother out there in the other room of my house right now, to me, I have not seen finer acting on television in that first episode, and I just thought it really set the tone for this season. Obviously, with Juice, he has this internal conflict going on forever, and then towards the end of the season, all that stuff really started to come to the top, and we started to deal with that stuff. So it was a really rough season. What I was really happy with Juice and that character was that at the end, it's all out there now. It's all on the table. He basically, for lack of a better word, from what we see, has teamed up with Jax and taken down Clay for now. And we get to now see, hopefully, this guy stop crying, back up, and stop punching people in the face. And because I am as tired of that as you are. But at the same time, I just thought that what an amazing, I'm so honored to play the character, and I thought Kurt, like I've said to you before, is just such a master, and he knows these characters so well. So this guy's internal conflict, to deal with that every day was fascinating. So I'm super honored, and I thought it was really the best season, and just great for every character. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. Kim, let me turn to you because you've had some pretty emotional beats on this show playing Tig. Obviously, the stuff with Opie and the stuff I remember, in the mud pit. There's been some very emotional moments, but this season, kicking things off the way it did, were you excited? And also, was it a challenge? That first episode, to set the bar so high in that first episode, how was that for you? And then playing what is normally a very tough character, Tig is the sergeant at arms. He's the tough guy, but to play such an emotional role, especially in that first episode.
Damon, that's none of your business. I can't possibly divulge that to you. No, listen, here's the deal. When Kurt Sutter told me what was going to happen in the very first show, obviously it was about 5 weeks before we started filming, I got a little emotional. I really did. I really got, I turned inside myself. I have 2 daughters in real life. I didn't know how I was going to approach it, but for him to have given me that sort of stuff to do means that he trusted the character of Tig and me as an actor to pull it off. And I think, Theo, thanks for saying that, but I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that in films or television when you watch your daughter burn in front of you and you're chained like an animal. It was a very emotional 2 nights of filming for sure. And then it was kind of a bookend for Tig, right? I mean, it was pretty heavy in the beginning and then heavy at the end with Harold, who plays Pope. Charlie and I, that last scene, knowing if Tig was going to live or die. This season has been an emotional roller coaster for all of us, obviously. And go ahead, Dan.
I had actually heard, because I talked to Harold last week, I'd actually heard that very much like Charlie did with Ron this season, where he pretty much kind of ignored him on set, kind of tried to keep that tension building. You kind of did a similar thing with Harold, is that right?
I did, and I did, and he did that with me as well. And we Theo, are you making lattes in the background there, buddy? What's going on? I can't even hear my.
I'm listening to you. I was excited. I'm walking around because you're
shaking a martini for me. Or what are you doing? Yeah, no. Harold and I did the same thing. In fact, when we were completely finished, that last scene, we ended up like going, I'm a big fan of yours. And he goes, I'm a big fan of yours. Like, we didn't talk to each other for an entire season really until it was completely over, when we could actually open up to each other and tell each other how much we respect each other as an actor. So it was pretty important to do that, to keep the inner sort of hate and feelings towards each other filming this series, because Sutter, he does that. He's an amazing storyteller, and you never really know where he's going to go.
Yeah. Theo, let me ask you, because we talked before the season started, of course, about the emotional upheaval that Juice was going through going into this season, and somebody asked me this, and I thought it was a great question. In the beginning of the show, Juice was kind of the fun guy. He's in diapers, he's the hacker, he's this guy, but then the last couple of seasons, you've really been turned on your head as far as the role that this character's taken on. How has that been for you, and is it true that Kim actually punches you before every scene when you have to cry? Is that true, that what I heard?
Absolutely the truth.
Okay. Well, he's leaving out one very important part. But what really makes me cry is I actually watch how much time goes into his hair. So when I watch that, I start crying. That's the first thing that happens. Then, no.
It's all about Theo's stomach, and it's all about my hair. That's really the truth right there.
Okay, first of all, we call it abs, not stomach. That's number one. Number two. No, you know what? Here's the thing. This is why it's such an honor to play this guy, and I realize why people are so frustrated with him now. I just read on one of these websites where they said best and worst character. They were given a report card for the show, and it said worst character Juice. They're like, but let me clarify. Theo Rossi plays him to perfection. I can't stand that Juice just didn't tell them that his father was black. None of this RICO stuff would have happened. Jax wouldn't have had this problem with the IRA. What I wish is that I could write people back like that and go, yes, then there would be no show, because that's kind of the point. You know what I mean? So it's funny that people are so emotionally invested into these characters, and specifically, characters like Tig and Juice, for example. But what I feel is that I'm honored because I really do get to play, like Tig, we're some of the few characters that really get to play all the emotional beats. We get to play comedy, even within a season or sometimes within an episode. We get to play comedy. We get to play, emotional upheaval. We get to play.
I'll tell you, sorry to interrupt you, but I got to say, if you remember first season, second season, Juice and Tig were out there doing their things. There was some funny stuff in there. People love that sort of stuff. I remember Kurt Sutter had a conversation with me halfway through the season, and he goes, we're just all out of comedy. I mean, there's just so much drama going on now. It's like, thank God Chucky's still around to try and bastardize the French accent, because it's dramaed out now. And the good old days they're over. We've moved on. And that doesn't mean that, Theo and I won't be funny here and there, but those days are over, man. It's a different show now.
No, but then again, I did have my stuff, in the beginning of the year with Wanda, with Jimmy Smith's, with Nero's thing, and I got to go back to kind of that old juice for a minute in the beginning, which I thought was really cool because, especially Kim's stuff. Tig with Venus Van Dam.
Yeah.
That whole episode.
How sexy was she?
Oh, man. We had that whole...
Walton Goggins, don't get me started.
I could sketch Walton Goggins' balls right now. Because I saw them so many times that day.
In that little cat suit, he was so cute.
Yeah. So it's such a, like I said, and, the thing is we're really lucky because we're on a show where, however it may be, we get to play all those emotions. So a guy like Juice, the reason why I love is that he's constantly evolving into something different. So it makes it so interesting to get scripts and play him because he goes from this lapdog to this funny guy to this emotional wreck. And I'm really excited to see, how this plays out now because the last you saw him, Jax kisses him and says, "I'm proud of you." There was a scene in there that didn't wind up in the finale, and Kurt actually explained why. But there was a scene where, in the montage at the end, where Chibs beats the bloody hell out of Juice, and it's kind of like a thing of like, I need to do this. But I know that Kurt said recently in a couple of interviews that he's, it took away from, kind of that thing with, him, Jack saying he's proud of him.
With Charlie, yeah.
With Charlie, yeah. And I mean, that I thought sometimes even the littlest moments are such beautiful moments. And, Charlie and I discussed that moment, and it's really kind of what Juice was searching for the entire time from Clay, and then finally got it from Jax. Where that goes, I don't know, but he would just wanted to hear acceptance, and he got that. And to Kim, come on, really, D, this. If you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, there's no better character on the show. It's the guy you want to watch at all times because you never know what's going to happen. And the most interesting thing for a fan, because I'm a fan, I'm a huge fan. So to be a fan of the show, when someone steps on screen, you don't know what they're going to do. That's the most interesting because you're on the edge of your seat, and that's what Tig brings, and that's why. Come on. So it's funny. We all have our little unique things, and I think that's what people, flock to watch the show.
And one last thing, Dan, if I can. It's so great for us as actors. You understand that this entire season, Juice was with Clay. They were pretty much together the entire season. I had a couple of early beats with Theo early on, but not a lot. So for me and for Charlie and for Booney to watch the show and see how it's all come together, because we know obviously what the scripts were like, but we weren't there when a lot of this filming's going on. So for us to see how Kurt wraps it all up into a big present at the end of each show is it's great for us to watch. And it was great to see Perlman and Theo do their stuff this year. It was really, really good.
Kim, I want to ask you, because I read a couple interviews after the season was over about that scene with you and Charlie and Harold to kind of close out that storyline. The build-up, and I'd read that, actually the part where you spit at him was not in the script. That was your creation. And then actually at the end, when he puts his hand on you, the same thing. Talk to me about that scene in particular, because that really was the evolution from episode 1 to the final episode of that Tig character kind of coming full circle.
Yeah, I can't explain to you guys enough how when Sutter writes you something like that, how when Tig did not know what was happening at all, and for that for him to go through something like that was very emotional, and it was just some great beats to play. And Charlie was great, and Harold was great, and I stayed away from him at all times, and I really thought that I was going to die. I really thought that Charlie had given me up, and for one of your best brothers to do something like that. Even Sutter said, why don't you add something like, tell him, what Dawn was screaming, and she was screaming my name, Daddy, Daddy. That was an improv that came from Sutter, and the spitting was me, and the pushing away was Charlie and me. Yeah, that's what acting is. You figure it out on the moment, in the moment. You don't plan stuff. You see how you feel, and that thing turned out really well for sure.
I would love to spend this entire interview talking about Venus Van Dam, because that was definitely one of the best moments on the show. But I gotta have my TV moment here, and I gotta ask. I'll start with Theo. I gotta start with Theo, though. I'll ask you this: what was it like on this season saying goodbye to Ryan Hurst?
Listen, Ryan and I have such a uniquely special relationship that is very different than you could kind of ever explain. Ryan has done a lot of things for me and put me on a specific path in my life with way off this show, and helped me in many ways with projects outside of this show. So we have a very we're very similar in a lot of ways. We're very different in a lot of ways. With Ryan going, it was different than Piney. It was different than every other character, and the reason why it was different was it was like a guy who was there every day. There's a certain core group of us that are there every day, and even though it might not seem that way in episode, we're there every day. And it was Chibs, Bobby Elvis, Happy, Tig, Clay, Jax, Juice, Opie. We were this group that's there every day, and whether it be so when that went, what it signified more than anything was, whoa, wow, we're on the other side of the mountain, as Kim says. We're in the home stretch, and that was bizarre for all of us because it kind of took us all in for a second to go, oh, okay. So it wasn't as much as I still talk to Ryan all the time. I still it wasn't so much that. It was so much of he's not going to be there at work for us. And Opie, what I've always said about Opie was he was the moral compass of the show. He was this guy that he didn't really do anything bad. Bad stuff got done to him. So to see him go was kind of like, oh man, who's the nice guy? Where's the nice guy left? And so for Ryan, it was just like losing this extension of this, Voltron, which is Sons of Anarchy. It was like losing this one extension. And it was very, I would say more than anything, beyond the obvious of how sad it was and how, sad it was to lose a brother, it was strange. Let's just say that. It was very strange is a good way. And it didn't happen for a while. You know what I mean? Even though it's episode 3, it's, we're there for a little while at that point. So, and then, he's around and he's got to keep almost being involved with the show so nobody knows anything. We don't tip our hat. So, he was around. So it was just strange would be my word for it. Very strange.
Kim, what about you?
No, I can't add to any of that stuff, but I will say this, that when it was all said and done, his final day on the set, we all went, the boys, to Joshua Tree, and we went camping. And it was the craziest 24 hours in 118-degree weather. We climbed mountains. We cooked steak. I rented a huge RV. We had a truck. We were slinging. We were slinging.
We crashed RVs.
Oh my God! We had just the greatest 24 hours looking at the stars and the moon and campfires, and it was a beautiful way to say goodbye to Ryan, because this is, we've said it now a million times, whether this is metaphorically Hamlet or not, there's going to be more deaths coming, and we just. I'm glad to be along for the ride, and I know Ryan was too, and he's sorely missed on the show, but it was a pivotal moment of the show. And as Theo and I say, we are now on the other side of the mountain, and Kurt's got to wrap this incredible saga up in a couple of seasons now, and guns will just be ablazing next year in season 7, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see where we all end up.
The one thing that I'll just say, because he just said it, it's like the reason why this show works so well, and I've always believed this, is because, there is this big, this mutual respect and this love amongst us all in one way or another. And, when you lose, part of that, no matter, even though it's happening, it's like, it's sad. And that's, but you also know what you sign up for. You know the world you're living in. So you kind of, you're not blindsided by it, but when it happens, you're like, oh, really? You know what I mean? It's like someone who smokes for 30 years and then the doctor tells them they have lung cancer. They're like, really? It's one of those things, but you kind of knew the deal when you started smoking. So it's just that kind of comparison in a way.
Let me before we get you out of here, I got to talk real quick about the future, and I'll start with you, Kim, because the end of the season, that scene with you and the pit bull is so beautiful. So many animal rights people were like talking about how beautiful of a scene that was at the end of the year. But going forward, I know I read an interview with Kurt the other day, and he said that he hasn't made decisions yet, but he thinks with Bobby giving up his VP patch, he's thinking about putting the VP patch on Chibs and maybe putting Tig back to the right of Jax, putting him back in the Sergeant at Arms. What are your thoughts going into the next season as far as your role and your relationship with Jax and Clay and everything that's moving forward?
My thoughts are pretty simple. I think Tig at the core of this guy, he's a loyal guy. He shoots sometimes before he talks. He gets in a lot of trouble that way. He seems to always accidentally kill the wrong person, and he has to live with those repercussions. But he's loyal. And so this entire season, he was loyal to Jax. He didn't get jacked up. He voted with Jax. Everything Jax said, he voted with him. Now the whole problem with Clay and Clay's gun and Clay's going off to prison, I think it's going to be another who's loyal to who. Who's going to give up what for who? And Jax's survival, is he turning into Clay? Has he just gone so much to the bad side? Is he going to come back to the moral compass that Theo mentioned that Ryan had on the show? And Bobby and Juice have in a way as well. So, buddy, we can guess till the cows come home, but this is Sutter's saga, and I guess we're just going to see where he puts us all, because I can't wait to play it. That's for sure.
And Theo, for you, same thing. We talked about the changeover from Juice early on to Juice later in the show. That end scene with obviously Charlie with Jax kissing him on the forehead. But I just have a feeling that as crazy as these next couple seasons are going to get, we haven't seen the end of the turmoil for Juice.
Well, now there's the fact of what he did to Clay. You know what I mean? So there's that, because he really did, consider Clay a father figure, and really they became so unbelievably tight. Probably the tightest Juice has come with somebody, in the club, besides Chibs. And, obviously that relationship is on the rocks. I don't know. Again, you cannot guess or speculate in this world.
There's no guess.
Every time you do, it's totally wrong. For now, what I'm glad about with Juice is that all the stuff is on the table. You know what I mean? So whatever everything he does, he doesn't have secrets anymore. And I think that the only secret that is out there now is that, would be, well, it's not a secret. Clay knows he deceived him. So there's really no secrets for Juice. So I don't know what that does to this guy now. I don't know. He now has to live with the decisions he made. So let's see how that plays out. It'll be fascinating, I'm sure. That's kind of what Kurt does.
It's gonna be a fantastic ride. Last thing before I get you guys out of here, actually I want to talk to Theo about one more thing. But Kim, I gotta ask you, man, what do we gotta do to get you on Twitter?
Oh my God! If I get asked that one more time, I'm gonna just go bury myself in a mile of snow. I don't know, but I will say this: that my new team is all over this whole, getting a website and getting a Twitter account. You know what? Maybe sooner than you think. We'll just see how it goes, for Christ's sake.
Okay. And Theo, real quick, I know you've been doing so much fantastic work with Staten Strong, working with the folks out in your home area. I want to give you a chance to talk about
Monday.
that. Yeah, it's such a phenomenal thing you're doing, man. And I just want to give you the chance, because all you guys,
Yeah. Not just me, our greatest ambassador is, Kim Coates, and the thing I can tell you is that, I'll be back Monday. I just got back 4 days ago. I've been in New York, I'm in Staten Island every day, and we're doing what we're doing today. It's just another day, and another day for us is handing out, $1,000 in Target gift cards to a family that needs them, and walking around and talking to families about, who needs what. And my team is out there right now as we speak doing it. We have our enormous gala event coming up on the 27th. It's sold out in 4 days. It's or 5 days, and it's Kimbo Coates, myself, and the man that the man that nobody.
No one looks better than this man.
No one looks better than Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman,
us three. We are hosting this 1,000-person, gala event in Staten Island on the 27th, and it just sold like hotcakes. It's going to be so amazing. We're going to raise a ton of money, and we're a team now. The reason this started is unlike everything else, we literally go directly to families. I mean, if you go to statenstrong.com, you will see everything about us. If you just search it, there's so many things we're doing. We can't even keep up with it. We can't keep up with the T-shirts. We can't keep up with everything. But every dollar that comes in, this all happens so fast, is going directly to these families, and I can't thank everybody enough. It's been. Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Did I lose you?
No, we're still here.
Okay, there you go. It's been an incredible experience, and we're not even, we've barely scratched the surface. So I'm really excited. Kim did an event here in LA at our friend's Happy Ending bar, and it's been rocking. You could follow it all on my Twitter, but now I'm trying to transfer everything over to Staten Strong Twitter because I'm sure most people didn't want to hear me talk about it anymore, and I understand that. And the thing is this is the last I'll say about it, D. To the rest of the world, to the rest of definitely of this country, they think everything's all good there. I could send you pictures from today to assure you that it's not all good at all. There are people still without power. There are people still who have nothing. There are people whose insurance didn't cover the thing. And those are the people we're directly going to help because, that's what we're supposed to do in this life. We're supposed to help each other. So that's what I'm going to do. And Kim is doing it with me. And Ron Perlman, Sans Makeup, will be there. And he's been on Staten Island doing his thing. So thanks for statenstrong.com.
Thanks for getting the word out there for sure, Damon. Thanks for getting it out there, buddy.
Absolutely. And guys, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on. I make no bones about it. Sons of Anarchy is my favorite show. Kim, you deserve an Emmy for this season. I hope you get the nomination.
Yeah, thanks.
And guys, we'd love to have you back again. Hopefully see you guys out at Comic-Con in San Diego come July. And seriously, thank you for taking the time. It's an honor. I know the MMA fans are huge Sons of Anarchy fans and vice versa.
Oh, great.
So seriously, guys, thank you so much for the time and cannot wait for next season.
All right,
thanks,
thank
man.
you, brother.
Anytime.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon, guys.
Better day.
Bye-bye. Want to say a big thank you once again to both Theo Rossi and Kim Coates. Can't say enough good things about those guys. Make sure you support statenstrong.com. Obviously, Theo is a resident of Staten Island, going through some terribly, terribly tough times right now with Hurricane Sandy. The relief efforts are still going on, as you heard Theo talk to us about right there. Please support them. Fantastic organization. They're doing great things, real life, right in the community, helping people out in Staten Island. And Theo Rossi, fantastic person. Couldn't say enough good things about him. And it's awesome that the other cast members, Kim Coates, Clay, Ron Perlman, other guys are stepping up to help him. So check out statenstrong.com. Pick up a T-shirt. I got mine on the way. Make sure you support these guys, man. It's a phenomenal thing they can do, phenomenal thing anyone can do, and a phenomenal thing that Theo Rossi is doing and the guys from Sons of Anarchy. Again, there are some things much, much bigger than MMA, much, much bigger than TV, and this is one of those things. So a huge support of those guys. So please check out statenstrong.com. And support Theo Rossi and the guys in their efforts to rebuild Staten Island after a terrible tragedy befell them with Hurricane Sandy. We have one more interview coming up today, folks, in our special Sons of Anarchy edition of MMA Weekly Radio. We're going to be talking to UFC fighter Charlie Brenneman. Charlie is a huge fan of Sons of Anarchy. When I put out the call to fighters who wanted to come on and talk about the show, Charlie was the first one to hit me up. He's a big fan of the show, watches it religiously, much like myself, and he's going to talk to us about his thoughts of season 5 and also how it can correlate back to MMA very, very well. So he's going to talk to us about that. We're also going to talk a little MMA with Charlie. He made the announcement last week that he is dropping down to 155 pounds to kind of get a rebirth of sorts at lightweight. So we're going to talk to him about his next fight coming up in January. So stay tuned for Charlie Brenneman and more Sons of Anarchy. We are back here on MMA Weekly Radio, and obviously today is a very special day for us. It is Sons of Anarchy Day here on the radio show, and obviously the crossover between Sons of Anarchy and the world of mixed martial arts should be seen anytime you go on Twitter after Tuesday night at about 11 o'clock Eastern time, because every fighter I know is posting something about Sons of Anarchy. And one of the biggest fans, of course, is our good friend Charlie Brenneman, who joins us here today. Charlie, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time for us.
My pleasure, man. It's a good topic.
Charlie, before we talk Sons of Anarchy, because that's our topic for the day, I got to ask you real quick. We saw the announcement on your website coming up here in just a few weeks. You are making the move to lightweight in your return to action in Pennsylvania. I got to ask you, man, how did this decision come about to drop to 155?
I kind of I keep using the analogy, I made my own bed. When I lost to Noak, that's a fight that I never should have lost. I don't think any of my fights had to do, maybe the Johnson fight, but I don't think they had to do with, me being too small for welterweight. I think my technique and my skills just weren't there for those fights. But, after talking with Joe Silva and my trainer and my brother, we kind of figured, the best approach is to start fresh, get down to 55, and, eliminate that size factor once and for all and see how well I can do.
So have you made a test cut yet, or have you gotten the weight down? Like, how is it going thus far? Because obviously we're a few weeks away from when you get back in the cage.
Yeah, I did a test cut last Thursday. I got down to 155.8, and I hate to say it, I don't want to jinx myself, but it wasn't that bad at all. After my last fight, pretty much starting the day after my last fight, I've been doing an insane amount of cardio, and I think that, along with curbing my diet a little bit, has really taken the pounds off pretty nicely.
Yeah. So do you feel like this is kind of a restart, so to speak? I know I saw that kind of like on Twitter, just kind of a restart for you starting fresh at 155 with this first fight, as I know you want to work your way back in the UFC.
Absolutely, and I'm not of the illusion that it's going to be a cakewalk, and these guys that with my upcoming fights are going to just roll over for me. I know it's going to be a battle just like it was a battle at welterweight, but yeah, it's a new, fresh start, and I'm prepared. If God forbid something bad happens in that first fight, it's not like I'm going to just go away. I'm prepared for the long haul, and to make a run at getting back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's going to be a good move, man. I mean, obviously, we saw the difference with, guys like Rory McDonald and BJ Penn. I mean, size is a big deal these days because everyone's really good. And I agree. I don't think you ever really got outmatched in strength or size, but at least being the same size or bigger than opponents, it's got to be a nice benefit going into a fight.
It'll be pretty nice. And I have to say, I forgot what really cutting weight was like. I actually got a smile on my face when I put the sauna suit on getting ready for that last cut because, it had been since college that I really, really had to, make a weight cut. But like I said before, it went pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely looking forward to it coming up in Pennsylvania in January, so we're looking forward to seeing you back in there. But, Charlie, of course, the topic of the day is Sons of Anarchy. Before we talk about the season and all the craziness that went down this year, how long have you been watching the show? Obviously, I know from Twitter you're a pretty big fan.
Yeah, I probably started maybe a season late. My brother had mentioned it. So, I caught up with the seasons, whether it was online or Netflix, I think, had them all for a while or something. But, I was able to watch them all and get caught up. And then kind of what I like to do works out better. I remember getting so frustrated every episode because they would leave you on such a hanger for the next week. So because of my schedule this year, I was on a lot on Tuesday, so I was able to DVR and just knock them all out like 4 at a time, wait a couple weeks, 4 at a time, so it worked out pretty well.
And obviously, it's a pretty amazing show. I don't need to sit here and expel the virtues of Sons of Anarchy, but what is it? I mean, obviously, I just think it's a great action show. I think it's a great drama. I think it envelops everything I love about television. I'll ask you, what is it you love most about that show?
It's a little bit of everything. It's the notion of the biker gangs and the tough, badass guys that, it's just, we all get a little bit excited about that, kind of live through them a little bit. But then beyond that, it's really deep with the characters and the plots and just the backstabbing, man. It's so awesome. I said to my buddy the other day, I've learned a lot about life by watching Homeland and Sons of Anarchy because you just learn they know how to play their cards, and although it's a TV show, it really does teach you a lot about, when to keep your mouth shut, when to go forward, who to trust and not to trust.
Yeah, it's there's definitely no shortage of backstabbing. Let me ask you about this season, Charlie, because this season the show really turned things on its head because we had seen major characters in Sons of Anarchy die before. Obviously, Piney last season and some other characters, but this year, 3rd episode in, they kill Opie. I mean, that to me was like the sign of times, the sign of things to come. Was that? That was the moment for me this season. I think that's the moment for a lot of people, but that moment stands out as one of the most shocking things I've ever seen on TV.
Yeah, it was one of those things where he was such an integral part, and his character was so tormented, but it always brought something to the table, and then whenever that happened, it was like, where's all the fashion that it happened? It was a pretty hardcore scene. And then after that, it was kind of like, whoa, anything can happen. There's no real rules. It just kind of set it up for for chaos, pretty much.
Yeah. What did you think of the big villain this year, Damon Pope? We have Harold Perrineau on the show today. Obviously, I think he did a fantastic job, and to me, he's the best villain they've dealt with the whole time. I'm actually still shocked he didn't make it this season, to be honest, just because he was so smart and so everything he did was so smart and so intelligent the way he approached the Sons. But I thought he was a fantastic villain this year.
I was a fan of his since Lost, actually, so it was kind of different to see him in that sort of a role. But, yeah, it was pretty intense, and like I said, just to always thinking one step above, one step ahead of not your opponent, I guess, but one step ahead of your adversary, and then seeing how him and Jax played off of each other, like Pope was just kind of a mastermind, so you assumed he knew everything, and then when it would look like he was taking advantage of Jax, then you'd see a scene later where Jax was actually taking advantage of him, so it was a good play off of each other.
Yeah. So I'll ask you, Charlie, the end of the season comes. Obviously, we got, obviously Pope is dead, Clay's in jail, and then they come and arrest Tara. So here's the conspiracy theory everyone's wondering is who turned in Tara? I'll give you the chance. Who do you think? Was it Gemma or was it somebody else?
Now, because of how they turned it at the end there, I don't think it was Tara. I think that little moment I don't think it was Gemma. I think that little moment, that little eye glance that Gemma and Tara had was to make us all think that it was her, but I really don't think it was her.
Yeah. See, I'm in the same boat. My first thought was, man, she just went off the rails, but then I'm starting to think it's the U.S. Marshal, Lee Torek, the guy who lost his sister. I have a feeling he's the one behind it all. I think that's what's going to be the big reveal next season because everyone's going to think. I just think Kurt Sutter's too good of a storyteller to let us all think the obvious and it actually be the obvious.
And if it was Gemma, Jax knows. That's my take. I don't think it was Gemma. But if it was her, that last scene where the Gemma and Jax were sitting there, if it was Gemma, I think Jax knows.
Yeah. It's such an amazing show, man. It turns you on your head with every episode. And I tell you what, I'm excited and sad already about next season because it's so far away. It doesn't come back till September next year.
The absolute worst, man. That's why if you get a good selection, with Homeland, with Spartacus, with Dexter, with Sons of Anarchy, if you get a good selection, then, the time you can forget about one and get into the other one. Then when that one's over, just kind of keep rotating.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, Charlie, because, one of the coolest things, because we've had, Theo Rossi on the show a couple times. He plays Juice. Kim Coates is on the show today who plays Tig. And the coolest thing is with the UFC, when they teamed up with that faction, it seems like a lot of these guys are really big MMA fans, especially coming off of Sons of Anarchy. I know Theo has become really good friends with Ian McCall and obviously some of the guys out in L.A. I know Kim Coates is a huge fan as well. And then Harold Perrineau, even though he's not on the show anymore technically, he used to train at Henzo's and was a huge MMA fan himself. I mean, is it cool to have that crossover? I mean, obviously you watch the show and enjoy it regardless, but I don't know. To me, it's like feeling a little closer connection to know that we're fans of theirs and they're fans of our sport as well.
And it's not too different. The demographic that the two entities share is pretty. There's a pretty transparent crossover. But also, it's that same attitude. When you have heroes or when you have action movies or whatever. It's not like a basketball player normally that you're like, whoa, it's like the motorcycle gang, the fighters, those are the things that people really like look in awe about. So there's a pretty big crossover between those two groups.
Yeah, and I think it's also cool. I mean, like you said with basketball, like when I grew up as a kid, man, I would have never thought, man, I don't have any, Michael Jordan, he's on another level. There's nothing I can really relate to that guy, but I feel like these guys, not only are they stars and on this hugely popular show, but they're down to earth, man. They're huge fans of our sport as well. I know that, they've traveled and gone to a lot of the UFC shows and they've gone to the Ultimate Fighter gym and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe it's me, but it just kind of correlates them back down to like regular people that they're on this awesome show, but they're regular people just like everybody else, and it's kind of that connection I can feel with them that maybe I could never feel with a Michael Jordan as a kid.
Yeah, and you hear a lot of people say that about fighters as well. It's a lot easier to interact with guys in the UFC than it is to interact with guys in the NBA or the NFL. So, that they share that similarity as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Charlie, we appreciate you taking some time to talk about our dual favorite show. I'm sure we're going to continue to do these until the end of the show because guys like Theo and Kim, huge fans of MMA, and we're huge fans of theirs. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, want to wish you best of luck coming up in your fight. And let me give you the chance, Charlie, before I get you out of here, man. The people support you. I assume it's not a lot of fast food restaurants with this weight cut coming up, but anybody you want to give a shout out to, you go right ahead.
Absolutely. First and foremost, my team, my brother, my coach, MMA Fight Club. And we'll have if anyone's interested in coming out sooner for the show, we'll have the tickets for sale on my website, charlie-brenneman.com. But it's just everyone, I guess I've learned to embrace the haters as much as I've learned to embrace my fans. So, as long as you give a crap about me, I'll keep doing what I do. So just thanks for the support. And, I'll be back, and I'll be back at 155 better than I was at 170.
Absolutely. Charlie, it's always a pleasure, buddy. Best of luck coming up in the fight. I'm sure we'll talk again real soon, but thanks for taking time to talk a little Sons of Anarchy with us today.
Sounds good, man. My pleasure.
All right, talk to you soon. Want to say a big thank you once again to all of our guests today. Charlie Brenneman, of course, who we just talked to, and a big thank you to him taking the time to talk to us about his love of Sons of Anarchy, as well as his career, which will begin again at 155 pounds. Coming up in January. I can't say thank you enough to the guys who come on the show today. Obviously, I'm a huge Sons of Anarchy fan. I make no bones about it. My favorite show on TV. I get tweets all the time from people on Twitter saying, man, you should work for Sons of Anarchy. And trust me, I've tried. No, not really, but I would love to work for them. But Sons of Anarchy is my favorite show on TV. Phenomenal show. Kurt Sutter does a fantastic job, and I can't say thank you enough to the folks at FX, Dominic Pagone, and all the folks over there for helping us out set up this phenomenal show. Big thank you, of course, to Theo Rossi, Kim Coates, Harold Perrineau, and, of course, Charlie Brenneman for coming on the show. It's just so huge to have guys like that come on and spend some time with us and talk about something other than MMA for a little while, because obviously we're huge Sons of Anarchy fans. We did it last year with The Walking Dead, and I'm sure we're going to do it again this season with The Walking Dead when that show wraps up come March or April. But right now, I wanted to talk a little Sons of Anarchy. I know a lot of guys are huge Sons of Anarchy fans, so why not talk a little Sons of Anarchy? So we appreciate all the guys that come on. Again, a big, huge thank you to Theo Rossi, Harold Perrineau, Kim Coates, and Charlie Brenneman. Definitely appreciate them taking the time. And for everybody, we'll be back to regular MMA talk tomorrow with Jeff Kane. We're going to have a lot of guests coming up this week. Start getting into UFC 155 and starting to go backwards to talk about the Ultimate Fighter finale and everything that happened there. So we definitely appreciate everyone that tuned in today. I am Damon Martin. We love Sons of Anarchy. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in for this special show, and we will see you then.